आचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परा. Which page are you on? Okay. Can you see, give me the page number?
Page 45.
Thanks.
I'll just remind Anjana ji.
Yeah. Okay. Let's share the screen. Let's start. Yeah, I will share the screen. Okay. Pratik ji, can you start reading?
Ji. Chapter 4, Ignorance and Knowledge. There are two types of achievements: achievement of something not yet achieved and achievement of what is already achieved. Freedom from inadequacy, moksha, cannot be of the first kind, because achievement of the not yet achieved involves change produced by effort. Change is always limited. The previous condition and the succeeding condition mutually limit each other. All again through change involves loss. There is never any absolute gain. Completeness, total adequacy cannot be achieved of the not yet achieved. If such an achievement is possible, it must be of the second kind, an achievement of the already achieved. Everyday experiences reveal examples of such achievements. A situation in which someone is searching for his reading glasses, unaware that the glasses are perched on the top of his head, is an example of an already achieved goal. The one who seeks to be the possessor of the glasses is already the possessor of the glasses. The seeker is not different from the sought. The apparent difference between the seeker and the sought is brought about by ignorance.
Okay, please read the next term also. Next.
Everyone is born ignorant. Just as one can be ignorant of one's glasses sitting atop on one's head, one can be ignorant of oneself. In fact, there is no reason why one should know oneself. Everyone is born vastly ignorant, not absolutely ignorant, because even a tiny infant knows a few basic things: to ask for food, to fear a fall, to recognize a smile, although his ignorance is immense. The vast ignorance of the newborn includes the ignorance of the self. The ignorance with which one begins life includes ignorance of oneself as well as ignorance of everything else. As one is ignorant of other things like mother, father, language, arithmetic, so too one is ignorant of oneself. Every form of ignorance is present, self-ignorance included. Then the shading of ignorance.
That can be the next person can read that. Nirmala ji can.
Hari Om. The shedding of ignorance. Ignorance is shed as one gains valid knowledge. Valid knowledge requires an appropriate pramana, an appropriate instrument, or a means of knowledge. Pramakaranam, knowledge instrument, means of knowledge, pramanam. Certain means of knowledge, the five sense organs, supported by an attentive mind, are given to us for knowing the world. It is very natural to make use of these means at our disposal. If one's eyes and ears are open and the mind simultaneously alert, one sees and hears. Similarly, one smells, tastes, experiences the sense of touch. In a newborn child, the sense organs are not fully functional. Function develops gradually. As the child develops, the capacity of the sense organs increases. Later, as the adult ages, the capacity declines. It is through these means of knowledge, the senses supported by the mind, that one sheds one's ignorance of the world and gains knowledge, a working knowledge of the world. Thus, as one gains knowledge, one sheds ignorance. Ignorance is not gained. Ignorance is one thing for which one need not work. Everyone is born with ignorance in abundance. As one grows through the use of valid means of knowledge, one sheds ignorance, ajnana. When the senses and mind are not defective, perception, the use of the senses, supported by the mind, gives rise to a valid working knowledge. Perceptual knowledge is the working knowledge of the world, valid in its own sphere. The family encourages this process of learning and at the same time makes language available as part of the knowledge to be gained. The mother says, "This is an apple, this is a chair, this is a table, this is a flower." The father adds, "This is your hand, this is a stone, these are two stones." As a child, one looks, touches, tastes, smells, and listens to the sound that is a word naming the object perceived. In this way, ignorance is shed and knowledge gained, first of forms and names, then of color and other attributes. Then later come finer distinctions, shades of color, various sizes and shapes. Thus, forms and names and finer and yet finer distinctions are acquired. And knowledge is gained of actions too, of walking, talking, eating, and of categories, classes of things, and the connections between and among them.
Now I will read the next section. Connections, sambandha. As one acquires more and more perceptual knowledge, one is able to perceive certain connections between different things, between classes of things, between different actions, between actions and things. These special relationships or connections are called sambandha. From these relationships, we are able to make certain inferences. Such inferences are called vyapti jnana, vyapti, invariable or invariable concomitance, jnana, knowledge. I smoke, I infer fire. I see smoke, I infer fire. I have vyapti jnana, inferential knowledge of fire. Thus, the knowledge of certain relationships allows me to make certain inferences from my perception. Inferential knowledge is perception based. Through perception and perception born inference, one gathers knowledge of the world. And the validity of perceptual and perception based knowledge is established by practicability in the world. Objects are known through perception. The perceptual meaning of knowledge, the five sense organs are the valid means for knowing things. which the sense organs can objectify. Each sense organ has an appropriate object for objectification. The eyes form and color, the ears sound, the nose smell, the tongue taste, the body touch. My five sense organs objectify the five appropriate sense objects external to them. And with these senses supported by my mind, I gain knowledge of all things I can objectify. There is not much to discuss in this portion. So, Pratik, can you read the next? You have to unmute yourself before reading. No, you have to unmute in the top. You will be seeing a microphone. Microphone button is there
जी
on
जी.
the top of it. Yeah.
The
And please
means of
unmute. Yeah.
the means of knowledge must be appropriate. In the uh, May I continue reading?
Yes, Pratik, continue.
Yeah, please continue.
The means of knowledge must be appropriate. In the light of the knowledge gained through one's senses, the ignorance of the world goes away. Ignorance never goes away unless knowledge, its opposite, is born. The birth of knowledge always requires a varied means of knowledge. The means must be appropriate to the particular knowledge sought. What can be gained through one means of knowledge cannot be gained by another means. If you want to know the color of the flower in your hand, the ear won't do, nor can the eye tell you if it is fragrant. The sense organs, each one of them is capable of acquiring a given form of knowledge, objectifying a particular object in a given way. The valid, appropriate means for knowledge is determined by the nature of the particular knowledge sought. If the particular knowledge sought is the color of some object, open your eyes and look. If the object is too far away for your short-sighted eyes to determine its shade, it will do you no good to try to hear its color with your keen ears. Get stronger eyeglasses. Borrow some binoculars, but you have to use your eyes. Ears, no matter how sharp, cannot do the job. The particular knowledge of a particular object requires appropriate means for that knowledge. Inferences are perception based. Inferences too are basically perception because they are dependent upon data from the senses. All inferences are based on perceptual data. Technological progress has brought about enhancement of the sensory capability. Our capacity to perceive has been greatly improved by various instruments which have been developed: microscopes, telescopes, X-ray machines, radar devices, and so forth. With improved sensory data, our knowledge has grown. All increase of knowledge as a result of enhanced perception, bringing increased opportunity for inference, still remains no more than knowledge about things which can be objectified. With improved sensory data, knowledge keeps improving. This improved knowledge is always about something which can be objectified, whether the knowledge is about a cell or an atom or the universe itself. It is about something subject to objectification. Even psychology is knowledge about something that can be objectified. One's thoughts, responses, and attitudes can be observed, objectified, and from that objectification, some generalizations can be made. Thus, a new discipline of knowledge is born: the knowledge acquisition we have been discussing so far is of things, objects. Perception is always of an object. Inference is based upon perception. Therefore, all inferences and presumptions, being what they are about objects alone. The word object is being used in its grammatical sense of something other than the subject, oneself, not in the general sense of something tangible. This usage of object can be understood through grammatical analysis of sentence structure. Here I is the subject, know is the predicate, an atom is the object. I know an atom. So then here object means anything the subject objectifies. Any given thing the subject comes to know, he objectifies.
Okay, next, Namlaji, please.
Sure. Intellectual knowledge is inferential knowledge. What one calls intellectual knowledge is nothing but inferential knowledge. Such intellectual knowledge too has its basis in the perception of objects. There is no intellectual knowledge which is not finally based on objects. Intellectual is inferential, and all perceptual and inferential knowledge is of objects, of things other than oneself. Knowledge is not created. The gaining of knowledge is nothing but the shedding of ignorance. The moment I come to know what a pot is like, my ignorance of pot is gone. Similarly, when I come to know what a cell is like, then my ignorance of cell, to the extent that I know about the cell, is removed. Ignorance is something one is born with. Knowledge is nothing but the shedding of it, ajnana nivritti. The gain of knowledge is not a creation, srishti. The gain of knowledge is only a negation, negation of ignorance. Knowledge is covered with ignorance. All one does is remove ignorance, then knowledge is, so to speak, gained. Knowledge is not something produced or created. Knowledge always is. Knowledge is what is. By removing ignorance, one uncovers the knowledge. Ajnana nivritti, that is, the ignorance causing the removal of, becomes jnana, knowledge.
I'll continue. Uh, Sorry. Valid knowledge. Knowledge is valid when it is true to what is. When it is true to what is, it cannot later be negated. When the word jnana, knowledge, is used, it should be used to mean completely valid knowledge. Knowledge that is abadhitam, not subject to later negation. For the most part, the knowledge one gathers is not completely valid, but it is a working knowledge of the world. Working knowledge is a relatively valid knowledge, which can be negated, but is nonetheless useful. That the sun will rise in the east and tomorrow morning at a certain time is working knowledge based on sensory data. This knowledge can be negated. It is relatively valid only from a given standpoint. More complete understanding of facts reveals that sun does not rise. But the working knowledge of sunrise at a particular place and time is useful knowledge, helpful in planning one's activities. Through the five senses backed by the mind, one goes on gaining knowledge and shedding ignorance about things other than oneself. Knowledge gained is about things that can be objectified, not about oneself. The non-objectifiable subject. Objects are things other than oneself. The subject. I possess valid instruments to gain working knowledge of objects. Sensory perceptions and sense-based inference are the valid means of my knowledge of all things that I can objectify. This is what perception, including all forms of enhanced perception, is. Perception is meant for to know things that can be objectified. Inference to perception based as it is a means of knowing things other than myself.
Perception is useless for knowing oneself. I am the subject, I am the knower. Do I have a valid means of knowledge for knowing myself? Perception and inference do not reveal the subject. Perception and inference-based inference are useless for knowing the subject. They work only for things which the sense organs can objectify. One can use perception well and come to enjoy a high level of information about objects and still be ignorant about oneself. One can be a very well informed person, learned in various disciplines of knowledge with many achievements to one's credit, and still continue to be ignorant of oneself. Self-knowledge is not necessary to operate the means of knowledge, the senses backed by the mind for knowing objects. One need not have self-knowledge to be proficient in any of the usual disciplines of knowledge. So far as we know, non-human creatures do not have sufficiently self-conscious evolved minds to inquire into the nature of themselves. Nonetheless, they successfully use perception and inference. Some kind of perception and some use of inference seem available to all beings. The migratory behavior of birds indicate an ability to make inferences. Their navigation requires inferences Bats are able to determine the location and type of objects by reading echoes. They conduct their affairs on the inferences drawn from these data. A cow presumably has neither self-consciousness nor self-knowledge, but its ignorance is not a problem. A cow does not say to itself, I know I am the finest breed of cow who gives many liters of milk each day, but I do not seem to be satisfied with this role. I wonder what my real nature is. Surely I must be something more than a living milk machine. A cow is not bothered by self-knowledge or self-ignorance. Its only problems are those of hunger, thirst, warmth, and survival. Unconcerned with self-ignorance, lacking self-consciousness, the cow nonetheless conducts its affairs through perception and at least rudimentary inference. In the Brahmasutra Bhashya, there is a classic description of the cow's ability to infer. A man and a cow are standing in a meadow. The man pulls out a bunch of grass and calls out to the cow. She turns her head and looks at him. He smiles, extending his arm and beckoning to her with the hand holding the grass. She looks and thinks, eating grass is is the sadhana, a desirable objective, especially eating grass obtained with no effort. She remembers, that this happened a few times in the past. People like this one have to fed me good grass. It was nice. Come, calls the man. The cow looks at him closely. He appears benevolent. The cow makes up her mind. I am being offered a harmless, pleasant experience. She has made an inferential conclusion based on her present perceptions and remembered past perceptions. She begins to amble slowly towards the man. After a few seconds, the man drops the bunch of grasses, bends over, and picks up a large stick. The cow stops in her tracks and looks closely. The man raises the stick over his head and scowls angrily. The cow quickly reaches a new inferential conclusion. This fellow man may be about to beat me with that stick. A very unpleasant experience. She tosses her head, turns, and trots quickly away. Both decisions, to first approach the man and then to run away from him, are the result of perception-based inference. Thus, the cow, in spite of its self-ignorance, is quite able to make inferential conclusions. Human beings are more skilled in gathering perceptual data and making inferences than a cow, or, so far as we know, any other animal. We enhance our perceptions with powerful instruments, adding to the capacity of our sense organs. We have developed keen disciplines of logic which enable us to make better inferences from the data we gather, but no matter what data are gathered or inferences drawn, leading to proficiency in countless branches of knowledge about things, the human being can remain as self-ignorant as the human being can remain as self-ignorant as the cow. For knowledge gathered about objects does not destroy self-ignorance. The need for knowledge the need for knowledge of oneself. If there is a solution to the peculiar human भैया थोड़ा scroll down कीजिएगा इसको The need for knowledge of oneself. If there is a solution to the peculiar human problem of one's constant struggle for completeness, then that solution lies in knowledge alone. When it has become clear to me that it is not possible for me to become a complete, adequate being through the gain or loss of things, nor can I rid myself of the urge to become an adequate being, then I know I must gain knowledge of myself. The adequate being I want to be cannot be produced by a process of becoming. No action can produce limitlessness. Therefore, there is only one way out, not the one of action, but the one of knowledge. If my problem has a solution, it can only be through the knowledge of myself to gain the limitlessness I seek. I must already be that fully adequate being whose adequacy is hidden, ये थोड़ा scroll down कीजिएगा इसका whose adequacy is hidden by ignorance. I need a means to shed that ignorance. The means to gain
Nirmala ji,
knowledge.
sorry, Nirmala ji, can you read the next one?
Yeah, sure. Anjuji has joined. I'm not sure if she would like to read. Yeah.
Anjali, is it possible for you to read?
I can read.
Yeah. Please read from that.
Okay. The means to gain knowledge of oneself. Where can one find means to discover the nature of oneself, the subject, I? As a knower, the subject revealed by the first person singular, I am ignorant of myself. I am the subject, the knower, behind the mind and the sense organs, but from childhood onwards, I, the subject, am unknown to myself. In the beginning, I was ignorant of myself and most other things. As I grow, I gain knowledge of many things through perception and inference. But my ignorance of myself remains. I want to shed that self-ignorance. Is there an appropriate, valid means of knowledge of myself? Perception and inference are useful only for things which can be objectified. I, the subject, cannot be objectified. Perception and perception-based inferences are all relevant only for knowledge of objects other than I. By definition, sense data and inference are means of knowledge for things which the subject can objectify. If the subject is objectified, it no longer is the subject, but only another object, and that which objectifies it is the sought for subject. How can I gain knowledge of myself, I, the ultimate, non-objectifiable subject? The Mundaka Upanishad verse we came across describes the need for knowledge and also tells what to do to gain that knowledge.
I'll read the verse.
Oh, perfect, thank you.
Parikshya Lokan Kar. My voice is okay. Parikshya Lokan Karmachitan Brahmano Nirveda Nas Agata Kritena Vijnanatham Sa Gurumeva Vigachet Amit Panihi Srotriyam Brahmanishta.
Having analyzed the worldly experiences achieved through effort, a mature person gains dispassion, discerns that the uncreated limitlessness cannot be produced by action. To know that the uncreated limitlessness, he, with twigs in hand, should go to the teacher who is learned in the scriptures and steadfast in the knowledge of himself. The mature person recognizes from examination of his own worldly experiences that what he seeks is adequacy and is able to see that that the things for which he has been struggling cannot bring that adequacy. He gains a dispassion towards security, artha, and pleasure, kama. Basically, he seeks nothing less than limitlessness itself. The gain of the limited cannot produce limitlessness. Limitlessness by nature is uncreated. Akarta, by action, kritena, the uncreated is not produced. To know that uncreated limitlessness, which cannot be produced, which can only be known, but not by such means as perception and inference, one has to go to a teacher, a guru, with twigs in hand, which means with hands ready to serve and with the right attitude. This verse tells what a mumukshu, an informed seeker of freedom from limitation, should do. An informed seeker knows that his search is for knowledge. He has become a Jignashu, one who desires knowledge. For that knowledge, he must go to a teacher, a guru.
Yeah, you can stop here. Okay, this was the only part which actually going into Vedanta. Now we have been just reading the we gain knowledge about the world and objects. Now we are slowly moving on to the knowledge about the subject, that is myself. So for that, one should approach a guru, and the guru's qualifications are mentioned, and also it also says that Lokan. So one has to learn from his experiences and attain a certain maturity. Learn from experiences and attain a certain maturity through karma yoga, living a life of karma yoga. Some maturity is required, mental maturity and emotional maturity and so on. It's required for understanding the what the guru is teaching. We have seen that in Tattva also, last sessions on Tattva. We have seen the fourfold qualifications. So that is what is being said in the verse as well. And also, on the yeah, I think more will be covered in the next session. Okay, then we can stop here. Ready to discuss or any questions or anything? We can discuss, else we can pause here.
Okay, so I would like to add one thing here is that basic thing from my understanding, what is required here is a lot of chitta shuddhi, in the sense cleansing the mind. In the sense, the mind is always having some kind of distortions within it. So it's like a mirror which does not reflect the subject as it is. So I believe like you may present the logic of Vedanta to a person, but unless the person has enough chitta shuddhi gained through the nishkama karma, in the sense he's taken a mantra, he's done a bhajan, whatever, through that nishkama karma alone, I believe chitta shuddhi can be accessed. Otherwise, I don't believe without chitta shuddhi, I think understanding the subject, understanding Vedanta is impossible.
Yeah, actually, we don't actually use also the word nishkam karma. Through karma yoga alone, one has to. No, nishkama is usually defined by Gandhi and other all secular authors and people that it is an, an action without expecting certain result. Actually, that does not exist. Nobody does something without expecting some gain from it. So, and Swami Paramarthananda, this says a famous Sanskrit verse, it says, "Na prayojanam anuddishya na mandopi pravartate." So, uh, not even a fool will do anything without expecting some sort of benefit or action for at least some for oneself or for somebody else. Some benefit should be there. So we do expect a certain result, but yeah, karma yoga I think will be discussed in coming sections.
No,
So basically, yeah,
I feel it's more like Ishwara Arpana Buddhi.
yeah, yes, yes,
So initially he will take it up as Kamya Karma itself. Whatever Shastra Vihita Karma he's taken, he'll take it as Kamya Karma. Once he has a certain faith and trust in that particular karma, automatically he will start doing it with Ishwar Arpana Buddhi. So I
yeah.
believe
I think
doing
that we
this,
can discuss in next
yeah,
coming. Yeah, I think
that's
karma yoga
just
will be
a
certainly discussed in the
that's
next.
just one point I wanted to add, nothing
Yeah,
more.
yeah, that will be discussed in the next, I think. So please, Nirmala ji, please note this page number. So
Yeah, sure. Glad you stopped at this time. We need to reflect also. Thank you.
yeah,
I'll make a note.
yeah. Okay, so we can start. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purna Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Sri Guru Namaha Hari Om